Welcome to another episode of the Plutus Awards Podcast. Our community is filled with hundreds of stories from creators and entrepreneurs just like you. Through this show, we share these stories of challenges and successes, from bloggers to podcasters to writers, speakers, and more. Today's guest is Kevin Ha, a writer, side hustler, and blogger at financialpanther.com. We talk about the moment he decided he wanted to quit his job as an attorney, how he uses the gig economy as a stable income source, some of the challenges he faces growing his website, including methods that haven't worked for him when it comes to being more efficient. Let's dive right into my conversation with Kevin. Walk me through the moment or the second that you knew that you wanted to quit your 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, the moment I knew was back in 2018. I had a really bad day at work. My boss came into my office and basically told me that I was getting into the office too late and that I had to be there by 8:30. I had been getting in like a little after that. And there's no real reason I had to be there at that specific time, but she just wanted me there. And so right from that moment, I put up a Google Calendar alert for myself for 1 year in advance from that day that said, quit job by today. I managed to do it a few months before that, so I beat that target. And, this was all kind of something I had been thinking about for a couple of years. I had started writing and kind of doing other side hustles back in 2016, and I've been slowly building it up. And so it took me about 3 years. But yeah, it was that day in 2018 where I kind of knew like, oh, I got to get out of here, because I just hated the idea that I had to be at a specific place at a specific time for no real reason other than that I just had to be there then.
Right, because I was technically like the start of the workday at that company.
Right. And it was like, that's when like the business hours started, I guess. But, I was like doing other stuff. I had nothing to do with, I could have done everything from home actually. So it's just kind of an interesting thing. Yeah,
just a tangent. It's really interesting now that because of the pandemic, most jobs that were formerly viewed as you can't do this remotely is being doing remotely. But that's a tangent.
Right.
What I am interested in is your blog, Financial Panther. And so what was the reason that you wanted to start that back in 2016?
So I'm a lawyer and I went to law school, and I was working at the time at a big law firm, so working like 60, 80 hours a week, like ridiculous hours, but getting well paid for that. And I had student loans. So I'd paid off my student loans by aggressively living lean and putting a lot of money towards student loans. I quit my job in summer 2016 and got a state government job, which gave me a little bit more free time. And at the time I had been kind of reading a lot of these financial independence and personal finance blogs. And I'd been doing a lot of like weird things also with my own money, with like side hustling and like figuring things out. And so a buddy of mine was like, you should like be writing about it too, because he was like kind of interested in this stuff too. And so I kind of took him up on that and said, yeah, I will could do that. And so, he helped me like kind of set up a site, because he's like a computer guy, and he like set it all up for me. And I just started writing and just kept doing it because I really enjoyed sharing kind of my thoughts and, things about like money and life and just whatever stuff I was doing.
At that time, were there thoughts about, I could potentially monetize this, or was that until maybe much later?
Yeah, that was much later. I mean, I started it, I kind of knew, or I had an idea that, like people make money writing. But, I was like deep in like corporate life at that point. Back then, my thought was like, you can only make a living as like, I basically thought there were only two jobs, doctor or lawyer. That's how I kind of thought. So I didn't really know how to monetize, but I kind of like knew that, I'd read blog posts of people who said like, I made so much money this month. And so like, I thought like maybe one day, but I knew it wasn't going to be like right away. And so my idea was kind of like, well, I'm just going to do this for like 3 years and just see what happened, with the idea that like, at some point I should maybe make some money if I'm like writing good stuff and just consistently doing it.
Okay. So fast forward to 2019, that moment you knew like, okay, I'm going to quit. 2-part question. Was the blog monetized by then? And number 2, when you realized, okay, I want to quit, was the blog the vehicle for which you will earn money after you quit?
Yeah. So at that point, the blog was making money. It was getting to a point where it was almost covering the same what my salary was at my job. So I have kind of an interesting career arc where I started off at a big law firm making 6 figures. Then I went to a government job, which was making less. And then I went to a nonprofit, which was my last job, and I was making even less. So I kept going backwards, which was actually kind of had like an unintended benefit of making it easier for me to kind of make a move to self-employment because the income I had to make was less and I was kind of getting used to making less. So yeah, so to answer your question, it was almost the same as my salary at the time. And that was my goal, was to make it so that this would be my full-time thing. And then I had a lot of these kind of side hustles with gig economy apps and stuff that was kind of giving me a little bit of kind of an income floor that I could kind of live off of if I needed to.
Excellent. So we will come back to the gig economy stuff because I'm really interested in that too. But before that, walk me through some of the ways that your blog makes money.
It's really two things: affiliate links and just display advertising. So the advertising was something that, as my blog got bigger, I could get to kind of the more premium ad networks, Mediavine and AdThrive and those ones, which made it so that I was able to make much more from the ads than I was with the Google ads. And then affiliate links is just I had products and stuff that I was using and I would put them on the site. And because I was getting a decent amount of traffic and, certain posts, especially were getting a lot of traffic, it was getting people to click on those links and sign up for these products, which was giving me a little commission.
What were your plans, or how did you plan on using the blog to make more income? Like, what were some of the tactics that you used to like get more traffic to the website or increase the conversions on those affiliate links?
This has always been like a process I'm still figuring out. The best way to do it would have been to do much more SEO style posts, which I didn't do very much at the beginning. The first couple of years of my blog, I really didn't write for SEO because I just found those posts to be so boring and hard to write, I guess. So for a while, I was trying to do the Pinterest thing. So I hired a Pinterest person and was doing that. My blog never really worked well for Pinterest, I don't think. It just didn't have the right content for that. So I've kind of cut back on that by a lot. And then for a while, I started doing Facebook ads. There was a stretch where the Facebook ads were really cheap. And so I was just basically taking all the money I made and put it into the Facebook ads and kind of pushing them towards posts that could generate income for me, and then kind of just sending it back again. So it was kind of going in a circle. And so that helped build up my traffic a lot for a couple of years. In the last year or so, the Facebook ads I found just haven't been working as well. So I actually stopped doing Facebook ads completely. And so now I'm just focusing on, I'm kind of doing two types of posts where I do one post that's like an SEO post. And I just kind of post it up there. And my SEO posts, I try to be helpful and not just hit on all the SEO terms and just fill it up. And I kind of do that. And then I just do what I call my thinking man's posts, which are just posts that are just what I'm thinking and these kind of things that don't really have any SEO potential. So right now I'm really focusing on SEO to kind of build a consistent traffic stream.
Interesting. So switching back to the gig economy stuff, as you were looking to leave your job, right? You had mentioned that it was a way to, I guess, supplement income or as a base income for when you quit your job. So tell me about how you view gig economies as side hustles, and then the type of side hustle which you consider scalable, which is your blog.
So the way I was kind of thinking about it when I had my job and then my side hustles was I basically thought, okay, so the job is my salary and that's just money coming in. And then I had the blog, which wasn't really tied to direct hours I worked or anything on it. It was kind of random. But that one was kind of scalable in that, I could make a post and if it was good, it could keep generating me income. And it didn't matter. I could write one post for one person and one post for a million people. It takes me the same amount of time. So that was kind of my scalable business. And then my gig economy apps. So these are apps like DoorDash and Uber Eats and these apps, which I love. And I've been doing these all the time. These were kind of if I need money and I need, I know what I need to make, I can go and make that money kind of on my own time. And so that kind of gave me a little base and a little bit of extra income. And so when I quit my job to do the blog full time, my idea was, okay, so the blog is going to be my scalable business that can keep getting bigger and bigger and making more. And then the gig economy apps kind of will give me a base of $1,000 or $2,000 a month. So it's kind of getting me my own guaranteed income because I know what I can make from them because I've been doing them for so long. I started doing gig economy apps even while I was working my day job as a lawyer. So I was working at a big law firm and I was still delivering food just because I found it fun, not necessarily because I needed the money. It was I just found it enjoyable because I do it on a bike. And so I was getting paid to exercise basically. That's kind of how I think about it is the gig apps give me my own income floor that I know I can bring in 1,000 or 2,000 bucks a month every month just from those. And I know, and that, I can like at least cover some bills with that.
Yeah, so it sounds like those types of side hustles are a way to kind of mitigate the risk. I'm going to air quote risk involved with a scalable type of side hustle, which can be a blog or even like a paid product.
Yeah, absolutely. Because right, when you're doing your own thing, your income can be kind of all over the place. And so I thought, well, these gig economy apps kind of steady it out a little bit.
And so when you say it's guaranteed income, like if I need to supplement, let's say an extra 1,000 or 2,000, whatever the amount is, how do you sound so confident knowing, okay, I can make this much from DoorDash or Uber Eats?
Yeah, I know because I have been doing it for so long. I am like ancient in the gig economy world because like I started in 2015. Most people don't do this stuff for this long. I've been consistently doing these apps since then. And so on my website, I track my side hustle income since I started the blog. So there's years and years of income reports that tell me what I've made from all these gig apps. And I know I can like look and see, okay, every month I've always been able to make this. Even in really busy months, I've still been able to do this. And so I just have the history of it and the data that shows me that I know what I can make with it.
Okay, in terms of data, tell me more about what that is.
Yeah, so a lot of people, I guess, with these gig apps, they kind of just do them and they don't really know like what they're making or whatever until like the end of the year. And even then they don't really know. And I've always been pretty meticulous in tracking that. And in the last year, I actually found an app that really made it much easier for me to track it. So like now I track it like whenever I go out to do deliveries, I can track it by like the amount of time I'm out there and how much I make. And so just like from the last year, I know what I make because I have all that in an app like written down. It tells me like, so for my food delivery apps, and it's crazy because the area I live in makes it possible to do this and like my strategies do it. But like I make $30 or $40 an hour doing food deliveries on my bike. And it's like very consistent, since March of last year, since February of last year, I've been able to do this. And so it, like something I just know. And obviously, yeah, the future is not sure, who knows what can happen. And these apps can get filled with people and demand can drop and that kind of thing. Yeah, like there's never any guarantees, as with anything. But I'm pretty confident just given the historical trends I've seen with my own work.
Yeah, and it sounds like because you are biking, the overhead's pretty low compared to someone who would be driving.
Right. And this is one thing I've always done all my stuff with a bike. I don't like driving at all. And so, right, my overhead is really low and I'm getting exercise most of the time. And so it's kind of like a win-win all around for me.
So how many hours would you say you spend on the gig economy side hustles versus your scalable one?
I spend usually about 8 to 10 hours a week doing the gig stuff. My goal every day is to do 1 hour about of these gig apps. And usually I go a little bit over most days. So that's how come it gets to 7 or 10 for the like food deliveries and all that. And then some of these apps actually kind of work out well for me because of the way these gig apps work, a lot of times you can use them while you're doing other things too that you're already doing. So like, I can do things where I'll be like going somewhere because I have an errand to run and I can like run some of these other apps that like are doing things for me. Or like if I need to go somewhere, I'll turn on like some of the food delivery apps and it'll like wait for a delivery that's going in that direction. And so that kind of helps save me time also because it's like monetizing a thing I'm already doing anyway. And then for the blog, I try to do it like a full-time job. I try to work a full day with it, but admittedly, I get lazy sometimes. But, I try to put at least 4 or 5 hours into it each day.
Right. And for many people, the point of working for yourself is to control your schedule. So if you don't feel like working on it, sure, there may be some risk, but at the same time, like, if you want to go sunbathing, like do it, right?
Right. So I had a baby. My wife and I had a baby last March. And so I don't know how people do that with a job, like a regular job, because, he goes to daycare 3 days a week. And it's on those daycare days, I am like, how does someone get their kid ready and get to work on time and drop their kid off at daycare in the morning? Because every time I am like late dropping them off at daycare. And if I had to be at work at 8:30, I don't know how I would do that.
And I'm laughing silently because I was one of those parents who worked full-time, side hustle, and dropped kid off. Well, in a nanny, but it was, yeah. I think at the end of the day, you kind of make it work. I cannot spill my secret because I don't even remember how that was very blurry phase of my life. But going back to the gig economy versus the scalable stuff, do you talk about the differences in your blog?
Well, so one thing I do kind of talk about with like the gig economy things is with many of these gig economy apps, most people think of it in terms of like hourly, like I'm paid per hour. But these gig apps, you're not paid per hour, you're paid per task, which is very different because when you're paid, like when you're trading task for money versus time for money, it does mean that you can make more or less for the time you're working. So that's one thing. Like in terms of like the amount of money I make with these gig economy apps, I make more than most people do. And it's because I like know how to do it the right way. I like live in an area that's like makes sense for it. And I'm using a bike and I'm traveling really short distances between these restaurants and stuff. And I also do something called multi-apping, which is running multiple apps at once and doing them all at the same time. And so I'm able to do like a lot more tasks for the time that I'm working on these apps, which increases my earnings. So it's not trading time for money. You're trading tasks for money, which I just think is a different thing than how most people think about it. So that's kind of one thing I do talk about on my blog when it comes to the gig economy stuff. I haven't really talked so much about scalable versus gig stuff though, admittedly.
So it does sound like how you're approaching it in your work and even in the way you're writing about this stuff on your blog is the idea of efficiency. Is that correct?
Right. I am big on being as efficient as possible with all the stuff I'm doing, but especially with the gig economy stuff, because you're not getting paid by the hour. You're getting paid by the things you're completing.
And do you use that approach to efficiency to your blog as well?
So I should, but so that's where I struggle with the blog, because obviously with the blog, it's my only boss really is me. And so I am admittedly slower than I should be with the things I do. Because, so one of the things I told myself I was going to do this year is, I'm trying to write more SEO posts. And I'm just trying to write more posts overall actually this year. So one thing I've noticed with content creation is you've got to make a lot of content. I've noticed that. And when you start making more and more content, it just gives more people a chance to find you, and you never know which thing will hit and which won't. And so you just got to make as much as you can. And so, so this year, I've been trying to work on writing my posts faster, and especially like my thinking posts where they have no SEO potential. I need to start writing those quicker, like in an hour, 2 hours or something, instead of, wasting a whole day writing a post that is only going to get seen for 2 days when I send it out to my email list, and then no one else will look at it again.
So what are some ways that you're trying to be more efficient?
Time tracking would be something that would do that. And I've tried to do that, but I'm not great with it because, the problem is when I'm on my computer, it's easy enough for me to go and, I'm going to go on YouTube. I'm going to go on this, and so, but that's one thing that I should do more, and I would recommend people to do who are trying to really improve their efficiency, is time tracking and kind of blocking things where you're just going to say like an hour of this, and I'm just going to do this for an hour.
Okay, so other than that, what other challenges do you feel like you're facing when it comes to scaling this blog?
With the advertising revenue, the only way I can really increase that is just more traffic, which is something I'm working on. And then the affiliate stuff is the same thing. It's really just a numbers game of traffic. So that stuff is all very tied to traffic, essentially. So that's kind of a challenge there. And then trying to branch out into other ways of income that are maybe more in my control. So, I've had like affiliate stuff where they, they stop doing affiliate things for it, and then I lose out on that income source. And so I have a lot of months where like some affiliate will do really well and some will just like be gone. And so trying to like create my own product or something, I've been thinking about like trying to do like courses or ebooks or something that will give me some more control over the income I create, I guess, that isn't so heavily tied to traffic, because I have people on my email list, and I'm sure I could like create something and put it out there. It just takes so much time to do it, and I just haven't gotten around to it.
Do you hope one day to completely stop doing the gig economy stuff for just purely for income, maybe just for fun?
So right now I basically do the gig economy stuff for fun right now. I've always kind of thought of it that way. Like I wouldn't do any gig thing if I didn't enjoy doing it. And so I don't ever plan to stop doing it because I just find it so fun to do. Like one of the gig things I do is dog sitting, and I love doing it because it's like I get to play with another dog, and, I already have a dog, so it doesn't really take me any more work to watch a second dog. And, my son loves it too, because he gets to play with some other dog in the house. And so I'll do that forever, no matter what. And so there's some stuff that I'll probably do less of, but I would still keep doing it.
And I guess on that same vein, where do you hope to see your blog in maybe the next 5 years?
So, I hope it just keeps growing. I hope I have some courses or ebooks or something. Even if I was giving those away for free, I would want to do that, just because I think I have, at this point, I have over 300 posts on my blog, after all these years. And so things are like all over the place. If you're like someone who just found the blog, it's kind of hard to like figure out what the cohesive thing that I'm talking about is. And, new people are finding the blog every day. So something that kind of organizes it more, I would like to do. And then one day I would definitely love to write a book or something, whether it's like a self-published book or a book for any publisher, just to do that, because I think it would be a interesting project to do that.
All right. So it sounds like in the next 5 years, you want to continue to do work that is fun. Is it safe to assume you've reached some sort of level of financial independence to be able to feel that way? Or has this always really been your philosophy about work and money?
Yeah. So my view on financial independence has really changed a lot over the last few years. So I kind of started off financial independence the way I think a lot of people kind of start off this way, where we hate our job or something, about it. And we're trying to find something. So we start Googling, we find financial independence. And, what does financial independence tell us? It tells us that it basically gives you a blueprint on how to get rid of the job, which is the thing that most people finding financial independence really want to get rid of. But I don't think it's necessarily they want to get rid of work. They just want to get rid of that job, but they don't know what else they can do because they still need to pay the bills and stuff. So, traditional financial independence would say, oh, what you do then is you stay in that job for 10 years or something and save as much money you can and then leave, right? And that seems crazy to me now that I think about that. If something is not working out, you don't stay in it for another decade or more to get out of that. So now I'm kind of more in this kind of create my own version of financial independence, which is basically, find something I enjoy doing that earns me enough money to live the life I want to live. There's lots of different types of FI. So like it helps out, I'm like sort of in a coast FI position now, where because of my aggressive saving habits earlier, I have enough money invested and saved that it will likely be enough when I'm at traditional retirement age to support my lifestyle. And then I'm also kind of in a barista FI position where it's like, if I just make a little bit of extra income, I can kind of support myself too. And so that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. It's just like create my own FI. What do I like to do? And what can I do to make money that will support it? Because, obviously the more money you need, the harder it is to find something that can support your life. Luckily, I'm at a point right now where I don't need a ton. And so that's kind of helped me.
Yeah, so it sounds like you have gone to a fairly, I'm going to air quote this again, stable place in the finances that you can view your work in a different way than maybe somebody else who does need the money would. And so given all of the experience you have in terms of growing the gig economy stuff, your scalable stuff, which is your blog, and moving through like, okay, I want to quit my job, I quit, and then now I've been doing this for about a year. Like, what would you say to somebody who's in that position like you were when you were like, okay, I want to quit my job. I'm going to find some way of making money on my own?
I think that first you have to kind of set the foundation beforehand. Obviously, I started this blog in 2016. I didn't quit my job till 2019. So I was like working my way towards it. And at the time I did it, I also had saved up a lot of money. I had enough to cover me for at least a year of expenses if I earned nothing. And then the fact that I was also doing the side hustles and stuff meant that year could actually stretch probably longer than that. So setting up a foundation, giving yourself like backup plans in case. And then, just kind of, there's like a mindset thing where you have to kind of realize that like the worst case scenarios don't always happen. So, we always have this thing where we think like, oh, if we don't do things exactly right, everything's going to be the worst thing possible, right? We're going to be homeless with no money and, we'll never be able to get a job again, right? The fact is, most of the time, if we think like, oh, this is going to be like a 10 out of 10 on the bad scale, it's probably not really. It's more like a 3 out of 10 on the bad scale. And so that's kind of like how I've also thought about it more, is that like, the worst case just probably is not going to happen. Most decisions don't ruin your life. You make a choice, and if it doesn't work out, you just make another choice.
Out of curiosity, what was your worst case scenario?
Yeah, my worst case scenario, the scenario I thought myself was, oh, if I quit this job, I'm going to have no money. I'm going to never get another job again, right? And that kind of thing. The reality of the scenario is, okay, well, if it doesn't work out, I'm just either going to go back and get another job. I've got a law degree. I can practice law. I can go get that. Or if I have to, I can go back to school, get, some other thing. I had an idea of like, oh, I'll get like a library science degree or something and become a law librarian. Or I could go to coding boot camp thing and learn how to code and get a job doing something like that. It's like, there's so many options out there, and it's like, yeah, it's one thing if you're like 65 years old. It's another thing when, a time equipment job, I was 32. There's like a lot of life left.
Right. Agreed. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for coming on. Where can everyone find you online?
Yeah, they can find me at my website, financialpanther.com. Go there and you can always email me and I'll always answer.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Let's take a look at some lessons we can learn from my conversation with Kevin. Lesson number 1 is to figure out a plan to have some cash flow while building your scalable long-term venture. If you've been a longtime listener of the Plutus Awards podcast, you'll know that this lesson is pretty prominent in many of my guests' stories. Now, for Kevin specifically, he had DoorDash and Uber Eats and things like that he really enjoys doing that gives him money while he's building his website, Financial Panther, to where he wants it to be. So if you are looking to make the leap into full-time entrepreneurship, think about some ways that you can have cash flow generating, maybe on top of some savings while you're scaling some things up. Lesson number 2 is to think per project, not hourly, when it comes to pricing. For Kevin specifically, he was thinking about DoorDash and other food delivery apps as per gig, not per hour, and that helped him earn a lot more. So whatever your project is, whether it's freelance writing, designing, or building websites for other people, thinking about it in terms for a project allows you to be more efficient and to earn more money. Lesson number 3, making more money isn't always the answer after a while. So for Kevin, yes, he really pushed in saving money and he was trying to reach for a certain level of FI or FIRE. For people who don't know what that is, it is financially independent or retire early. For him right now, it's really about enjoying his time, being with his family, and working on some fun projects. So you may come at a point in your business, maybe you're there now, where you're really looking for more enjoyable things. Maybe you want to pursue some hobbies outside of your business or spend more time with family, taking more naps, whatever that is, it's okay. Money doesn't always have to be the goal, especially if you're at a place where financially you're at a pretty good spot. That's it for today. Thank you so much for listening to the Plutus Awards podcast. If you're interested in collaborating with other financial bloggers, podcasters, influencers, and more to chat about your work, interests, ask and answer questions, come join our Facebook community. Search for Plutus Community in the search bar or head to facebook.com/groups/Plutus Community. We hope to see you there and get a chance to support you and your amazing work.